What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to address something on the back of my 23 F150. I've literally had it, well, now for just less than a week now. But first, one of the first times I went out in it, went out down some little bit rougher roads, had some pretty big dips in it. And something I noticed, and something I kind of focused on or knew was a problem on my 96 F250, obviously totally different trucks. But the rear suspension, while this is much smoother, it does have a little bit of wheel hop. I'm going to hopefully address that in the future. But what I noticed is the harsh bottoming out of it. All right, so it would hit your bump stop, and it would hit really hard. And so, you know, it's stock. I get it, you know, but what you'd get to a slight articulation, or you'd go over a big bump or a drop like that, and you'd feel that rear end hit the jarring kind of, you know, the bump stop of it. There isn't a lot of cushion back there. So I knew Timbren was out there. I knew they made some SES bump stops and some towing bump stops. I didn't know if they did anything for kind of the off-road world, and we're lucky that they do. It's called their Active Off-Road bump stop kit. And so what this is going to do is it's going to be a bump stop that actually, you know, soaks up that suspension travel. So as it gets to that suspension travel, it allows that bump stop to soak it up and squeeze down and slow that axle as it gets to and through that bump stop, so that you don't have that jolt. You have more of a smooth, linear, deceleration of your axle and smoothing of there. So it's essentially like a small shock, you know, that it functions. So what this will do is it'll replace your rear bump stops on either side. Super easy, or it should be. I haven't done it yet. It's all here in the box, but it looks super easy. You need a wrench with an extension and a 13 mil in order to pull off the factory cans. And so we'll throw those on, and then we'll toss these on. Again, it looks really, really easy. I'm really happy with the quality of them. You got a couple of like retainer there. You've got a piece that goes around the axle housing, and then the other piece here for it kind of clamps on real easy. And then the actual what does the work is this Timbren bump stop. And this is the one, it's gonna squish once that axle hits it, or once it hits the axle housing as it moves through it, and it's actually gonna soak up that travel. We'll get out after we do this, probably tomorrow because I'm on a time crunch, but I'll show you how, when you get into a little articulation, how that soaks up that travel. So let's get underneath here, rip off these factory ones, and then we'll throw these on real quick. I've got about 30 minutes. All right, so that's your factory bump stop right here. There's a hole in the middle of it, and as you see how short it is, it's really, really hard. And there's, I don't know, a finger and a half of, of absorption is what I'll call it there. So all you're gonna do is you're gonna take a deep 13 mil, try not to beat up your truck while you're at it, get underneath there, and I'm actually gonna get under the truck. And then you'll unscrew it, and the whole thing should come down. All right, there we go. Got that one off. Do the same to the driver's side, and then we'll start throwing the new ones on. All right, now that these are off, factory ones, I'll show you. I mean, look, the height of them is not different really, but this is just one small piece of rock hard rubber. This is the same size as the whole thing. It's a hair bigger, but I mean, look at how much more absorption there will be on that. So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna mount the uppers. This one says left on it. I am taking that as driver's side. You're gonna have to take it and throw a couple bolts on there, a short one up top, and then a long one going through to the bottom, that you're actually gonna have it with the, it's gonna sandwich with this cap, like that. So it's gonna sandwich in there. You're gonna put a bolt through there, which is your longer one. So we're gonna take that. There's already a washer in there. So I'm gonna drop it in. get it all sorted out, just like that. Let's see, is it a 13? It is not a 13, so it's a bigger, and so I'll have to go figure out what size socket that is, and we'll start knocking it out. All right, so factories came off with a 13. The Timbren's, the bolt is a 17. I am just dry fitting this now just so I can have, you know, it go on easier. You throw the longer one through, there's already a bolt in there. And that's secured on, nice and tight, one unit. Left side going on the driver's side. I'm gonna grab the other bolt and we'll, gotta do it in the other order. Don't do what I did. You have to put the bracket on first and then throw this on, or you can't get that bolt through. That's why you read directions, or that's why you watch me do it wrong. So first bracket on, then bolt the bump on. So I'm gonna get underneath there and we'll throw this, we'll throw the bracket on. All right, I'm underneath here now. I'm gonna put this bracket right there in place. It lines up like a glove. I'm gonna try to get hand threaded in because I'm running a deep well here. 17 mil. I can't use an impact 17. Let me go get a thin wall 17. All right. Now that I got what I needed, I have the bolt that's needed plus a lock washer. All right, that's on there nice and tight. All right, now we gotta get the bump on, which should be really easy. Just screwing it right in. There we go. That side's upper's done. I'm gonna go get the upper off the other and see how bouncy that is. That's gonna be huge. I'm gonna go get the other side done. All right, so now that you have the uppers in, it's actually a few days later. I got the uppers in and then got busy and haven't got to it. But now that you got the uppers in, you're gonna need your axle clamps here. You're gonna need a barking dog, obviously, that's required. And then the actual plates that go on the axle, that's gonna hit your bump stop. They interlock or kind of, I don't know, they just kind of nest in there with the actual U-bolt and axle block, so they actually sit in there really nicely. So let's get underneath there, and it takes I believe a 9/16, and you'll just run them right on with the axle block and be good to go. So let's get underneath there. All right, so all you gotta do is set it in there. Like I said, it nests in really nice with your U-bolts and you know, your leaf springs and everything. So I'm really happy with how they cut that, the bracket. I mean, they could have just, you know, made it not so, I don't call it precise, but you know, they clearly took time to make it the right way instead of just slapping it together. So you're gonna put your lower on. You're gonna drop your washer because why wouldn't you? It's got 2 nylocks on here, and you're just gonna start them and run them in. There you go. That one's mounted in now. I'll do the passenger side, and then we'll be done. Not gonna have time to get it off road right now, but well, at least we'll get it out tomorrow hopefully, and I'll show you kind of how it flexes out and how these will hit the bump stop and provide a much smoother ride. All right, so I don't have the perfect view of this right here, but obviously here's our driver's side. These have really been nice. You know, I've took it down the same road that I mentioned. I was noticing a lot of, you know, kick in the rear end and some hard bottom outs. But as you can see here, we've got a pretty wide gap between the bump stop and the bottom plate. But then if you go over to the driver's side, passenger side, because I'm sitting here on an angle and it might be hard to see. See, as you can see, we're really close there. But what these do, these will, you know, will start to slow your rear end as you hit the bump and move through the bump stop. See, like I'm saying, I'm really happy with these so far. And once I get the new suspension on, I think gonna even notice a bigger difference as it's leveled out, larger tires, a lot more mass to slow down. I've got some great shocks and great suspension coming, but just another piece to help everything work together really well. So far I'm really happy with these. Install was super easy. I'm excited to, you know, really get it out on some trails and see how it does, but thus far it's been really great. So guys, next week we're gonna be getting into, I don't even know what we're gonna get into yet, but you know, more modifications on this truck, probably suspension or brakes. So I'll see you next week. I hope you join me, and y'all have a good one.